Welcome. We're really glad you're here. Around our family, the door is usually open, the table's usually full, and somehow there's always room for one more.
This podcast is about making room. Room for faith, for family, for laughter, for the messy and the meaningful. It's about inviting you into our family culture and letting you experience the joy and chaos of a big family right alongside us.
We're moms, daughters, sisters, and friends.
All in different seasons of life, but we're all gathered around the same table.
So pull up a chair, take a deep breath, and stay a while, because love multiplies when we make room, and there is always one more seat at the table. Hello, and welcome back to the Room for More podcast. It has been a hot minute since we've been here, so let's just go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Noelle, as always, joined here with my mom, my sisters, and my dad tonight.
Hi, I'm Faith.
I'm Grace.
I'm Patricia.
I'm Rob.
Woo, Reuben in the house. So we're doing the part 2 of their love story episode. We did the part 1 probably about a month ago now. That was their backstory on how they got to know each other, where they met, how they fell in love, and the early years of their marriage. And now we want to dive in for a part 2 of how their love has lasted over time, and also advice and reflection that they would give to younger married couples or people discerning marriage. And also we'll just have a little fun here. Who do you guys want to hear the first question? Are you ready for it? They have not been prepared for this.
Ready.
I'm ready.
All right.
Rob's a little worried because he's not used to not being totally prepared.
Wait, Mom, you have a glass of wine. Do you have one, Dad? Yeah,
Sure.
baby. This is so fun. I feel like I should pour myself a glass too.
I kind of need one.
Did you get one on your Walmart order? Did you get a bottle of wine?
No.
Shoot.
No.
Darn.
Okay, question number 1. How has your understanding of love changed over the years? And you guys can, whoever wants to answer first.
I would say first and foremost, I think when you first find your person or who you think could be your person, there's a lot of like infatuation, a lot of just like physical attraction, and not that that is gone, it's just different, you know? And so I would say in a big way that has changed, just that we appreciate, I would say, each other on a different level, not just for looks or I don't know. That's definitely the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That we all know that real love means deciding to do the best thing for the other person. Sometimes there's feelings attached to that are good, and sometimes you're doing it just because you know it's the thing you need to do, and you might be tired and not really feel up to it, but you still choose to serve your wife and your children and just be giving in the best way you can. Not always perfectly, but you still have that intention.
It becomes a choice, I would say.
Yeah, not just the feeling. The feelings may be there at times, sometimes they're not, but in the end, you're just doing it because you know this is the real loving thing to do, whatever that is. It could be changing a diaper. It could be just going to work like a normal day. It could be willing to listen when you're tired, not really up for it, but just still trying to serve each other as best you can.
Do you feel like, I feel like that's a very like Christian response, like loving for the sake of loving the other person, but like from an emotional perspective, like bringing kind of the religious like part of it out of it. Do you feel like emotionally you have matured into like, I think you probably have, but like how have you matured emotionally in your love through the years? Like, was it different in your early stages of your marriage and like when you were dating versus now of like, how does that make sense? How you emotionally like loved each other and not just like for the act of loving the person out of like Christian devotion, I guess. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
I think it makes sense, but I also think that you can't really separate the Christian from the way you do it because it is what we are. We're made by God. We're made for God. Only by God's grace can we actually love like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the emotion part of it is just it's a God-given thing, but it's not the source of it. It's just kind of a nice thing. It might be an initial like infatuation kind of a thing, which is a God-given thing too. But he takes us way deeper than that, right? And I even see even in my prayer life that I've even asked God, I said, God, give me even the emotional sentiments too, because sometimes things just kind of get a little bit mundane, and you're like, I want to have a stronger emotional bond too. So I think it's good to just have Christ as part of all of that, not just the I need to do the right thing kind of thing, but I want to do it because I'm in love with this person. So I think that ebbs and flows, with how you feel and your level of exhaustion and all those kinds of things. But you also hit plateaus where life is just kind of cruising and we're doing good, but we want to make sure we stay connected. So you have to make an effort to do that. Spend time together. Try to go on a date once in a while, which I'm not very good at planning those, but your mom's really good at that, and so she's helped keep that part of our marriage exciting and continuing. And as we've gotten older, we've had more time to actually do things again together. So we've done a few like trips together, stuff like that. So that's been a lot of fun and kind of a dating again, in our almost 30 years of marriage. So that's been adding some spice to it.
Well, and
Ooh, spicy.
I would say too that, there was a lot of years that we didn't really have much time to date. We tried to like do it in little ways, like if you guys were in bed, then maybe like hang out and watch a show together or play cards or whatever. But I mean, for a long time, it did kind of feel like we were sort of going through the motions and just getting through every day. And I think that that is probably something about marriage that's not talked about enough, that like most of the time it's just going to be ordinary, and it's in the ordinary. It's kind of like that Hallow app today, the middle of the story that doesn't get a lot of like,
Tension.
yeah, but it's where, you're growing towards what you hope to be the climax, which
Mhm.
ultimately is heaven for both of you.
Mhm.
But I think we have to get comfortable just being ordinary, because that's most people's lives every day in and day out. It's kind of the same thing. And you can choose to like spice it up in ways, whatever that looks like for each couple. But for the most part, it's life. You're just, life
Mhm.
is lifing,
Well, and I
Yeah.
would say the ordinary to me is, I don't know if it's a safe space, but it's like I think it's a place where you have security because we know we're both committed to each other. We're committed no matter if things are going not well or going well. We're here through it all, and I think that gives stability and security to
Mhm.
your kids, which creates a peace in the home that, hey, we're all committed here. There may be some bumps along the way, but we don't have to sweat it. It's like
Yeah.
the ordinary is, I would say, just a nice place to be too.
Mhm.
I mean, you don't want to become like, what's the word? Take it for granted or something like that. But
Mhm.
I think you still want to put effort into keeping that romance alive, in your relationship with your spouse, and take a moment here and there to just make sure you do spend time together and
Yeah.
go away on a weekend if you can or something like that.
Mhm.
But the ordinary is your path to sanctity, and I just feel like that there's a lot of comfort in that.
Faith or Grace, do you have any interjections here? You're just
I ain't
here.
never been married before.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
I guess
actually a
I
great
can
perspective to have.
I think I can just relate a little bit on the like infatuation is such like a fun stage, and then like what as you transition into marriage and like the newlywed stage is so much fun too, and it's just you're constantly adjusting to new stages, and so I think like naturally your love is going to mature. I think a lot of the maturing of your love for one another also comes with like the experiences you gain together, and maybe
Mhm.
that's grieving together, maybe that's celebrating together. Like just going through those stages just adds a lot of depth, I think, to your love, adds just a lot of dimensions. And so like I can only imagine with all of the celebrations you both have had together and some of the trials you've gone through together that that has helped just mature your love.
I would agree. Yeah. And once you have a history, there's a lot of reminiscing you can do. And there's those special memories that a lot of times you forget until you look at pictures, but then all of a sudden all those emotions come back from 20 years ago. Oh, do you remember when Noelle got her first little puppy or something like
Mhm.
that? It's like you see that in your grandkids now, and they're going through similar experiences, but you're
Mhm.
reliving that and have
Mhm.
that to share together as a married couple.
Yeah, and nobody's gonna appreciate that family experience like your spouse. So,
Mhm.
there's lots of times that I've thought that. I'm like, I couldn't talk to anybody else about the great joys of, memories of family together.
Mhm.
We can talk to each other, as far as our kids and stuff like that, but ultimately, dad and I are the only ones that have the same perspective of like,
Mhm.
creating this family and watching it grow and watching each
Mhm.
of you blossom together. We can appreciate that together, I guess is what I'm
Mhm.
saying. So
Yeah.
that's really special.
Yep, and we
Yeah.
can see in our minds Faith running around, throwing Kleenexes in the air. She's opening a gift, being all dramatic, or or Grace belting out at the top of her lungs when it's really not the right place to do it, or whatever. It's
Well,
like
she loved to entertain
she
people.
liked to make people laugh, or
Yeah.
so. But those are the things that if you don't have your spouse that shared that moment with you, it's kind of like it's really rewarding to be able to share that.
Mm-hmm.
I think also something that I've noticed in your marriage and then also in my own is over time how much like deeper you know each other. I think through also life experiences, but just like being able to pick up on a shift in mood or something that might like trigger some type of emotional response and being able to step in on that and support your spouse. Like I think that's where I see a lot of beauty in marriage is you have somebody who knows you so intimately and, like nobody else, and I've definitely seen, like, I don't know, like, in different stages of your marriage and in our family life, how there have been times where you've been able to, like, grow in your being able to be present for one another in that way, and I think that's beautiful.
Well, and I would say building on that thought would be your spouse sees your weaknesses and still loves you, which
Mhm.
has helped me accept maybe God's unconditional love better to say, I don't have to be perfect to be loved, and that even though I'm striving, I'm not there, and my wife still loves me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's by God's grace that she can do that, but I also have a little better insight as to maybe God can always do that, even
Mm-hmm.
though sometimes I don't trust that. I feel like, in my perfectionistic mindset that I have to prove myself to God when I know that that's in my head not right. But my wife is kind of demonstrating how that is lived out.
Mm-hmm.
And for each other. I mean, I just think that in God's wisdom, he allows our like imperfections because if one of us was perfect, that would be really hard to be the imperfect one, you know what I mean? So, obviously, like we have to give each other grace because we're
Mm-hmm.
both in need of that same grace, you know? So, but
Yeah.
I think that we're missing the whole point if we don't talk about the fact that sometimes we don't do it perfectly, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have big fights. I mean, I know you guys, we would close our door or whatever and think we were whispering, but there was things that we had to step aside and work through, and it's not always pretty and it's not always perfect. In fact, I think if, people think it's going to be perfect, that can really, again, we're not talking about the whole picture of marriage, and that as beautiful as marriage is, there are hard parts. I mean, you're trying to meld two people from completely different like experiences growing up, and it makes you a better person, but it also requires some sacrifice and some like sometimes heavy conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
even anger gets involved sometimes. I mean, it's just
Mm-hmm.
it's natural.
Yeah, and I guess just to make sure that we aren't painting this
I
picture
think it's out
perfect
there.
family, you guys would be nervous. Like, are they going to get divorced over this or what? It's like,
Mhm.
no, we're not getting divorced. We're just having a disagreement
Mm-hmm.
and we're being loud about it, which maybe is something we need to work on. But in the moment, you're having it out, and then you're just like, okay, let's figure out how we can resolve this and then move on. So that's just
This
part of working through problems.
literally reminds me of when you guys got into an argument one time, and Faith, Grace, and I like went down to the basement and like knelt on our knees and were like praying to Jesus that you guys wouldn't get.
I think just to add some background, and I think probably a lot of people could relate to this, like,
Yeah.
not that we ever thought like,
Yeah.
we
We
never
never
heard
actually.
divorce threatened or
Yeah.
anything, but I think just, like, seeing friends who were
Yeah.
going through divorce within their family, I think it just made us, like, hyper aware that that is the
Was a
reality for some
possibility.
families. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think also, like, I don't really think you guys are at least from the experience I remember, I don't remember you guys being loud
Mm-mm.
fighters at all. I think, like, you did definitely I think you probably usually pushed it aside to, like, when we were supposed to be in bed, but we've admitted on this podcast quite a few times that we snuck out of bed a lot, and I think that I specifically remember whenever I would have that little freak out of, like, "Oh, are they gonna get divorced?" It was when I was sneaking up the stairs and listening in on your conversation.
Yeah.
So
I never like there was never a thought that you actually would get divorced, I would say. Like it
yeah.
wasn't like you ever planted a seed in our head of like, oh, this is an option. Cause like I
Oh,
feel like I
Mhm.
knew it was never an option. But there was like that one time where for whatever reason we all like got super dramatic about it and we're like, everybody on your knees right now and pray.
well, we didn't raise any dramatic kids, so I can't imagine how that
Yeah,
happened.
right.
Well,
The
I
6
just
girls went
remember
away.
I don't think we really did argue loudly for the most part. I won't say ever, but for the most part, but I do remember getting a note slid under our door at one point. I think it might have been from Trinity and Sienna. I don't know. I don't do you remember who it was? And
I
it
don't
was
remember
like,
who.
was it saying that they were like praying for us or something? Or I don't remember, but there was some little note and it was like hard to not pick that up and say this is ridiculous that or even but I think sometimes, I mean, there are situations that as a couple you have to discuss and you're not going to automatically agree on everything. So, I just think it's important to like add that to the conversation because that's reality. Like I don't want to point or to like paint this picture that we've got it figured out in any way because we don't. We really don't. We're still like we've been married 30 years this year and we still have things, probably the same things that were from the very beginning that grate on each other's nerves. And now we add in perimenopause, which is a very real thing. We probably need to have a whole episode on that because people
Well, let
my
me
age
just
understand.
why the heck do men not have to do any of these changes in their life?
I don't know, but they have to put up with us.
I
So
know,
I
that
would
is their
say that
cross.
that is tough. So, or maybe even harder. So,
True.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
You're worth it, baby.
Sometimes I think about that as a woman, though. I'm like, that would be so hard to be married to a woman.
It would. We are very intricate
Yeah.
and honestly cyclical. So I think probably, I mean, dad understands that part of me a lot better than he used to. But then you like, he just gets used to that and you throw in perimenopause and everything is
Whole new
unhinged
ballgame.
because you
No.
don't know what's going on when. So,
Well, and I have to admit that you have to be a little bit careful because guys can be dramatic too, but for the most part, we're just kind of more just stable or not up and down as much.
mhm.
But I can also fall into the trap of saying, well, it must be that time of the month. And so, but if you say anything like that, you're in big trouble. So you got to figure out how do you make sure that you're still listening, even though you realize it's probably a little bit hormonal, but you don't
2
want
days
to,
later, it's going to be fine.
but exactly. So you got to wait it out a little bit.
I have a course for men on this, on like,
That's what dating's for.
There you
Yeah.
go.
but
Well,
like some people still don't know about the woman's hormones, you know? Like the men don't know about the woman's hormones.
Well, a lot of
And
women
that,
don't know
Yeah, I
at
was
all.
gonna
Yeah.
say.
Like it's
exactly.
just
Yeah.
undereducated on all of it.
That is so true.
but I think it's funny because I've been through this how many cycles, years,
Let's
and
count
I
how many
still,
cycles.
and it still throws me off. I'm like, what is going on? And then after a while, I'm like, oh, I bet that's what's going on. And it's like, because it's like, why is that bugging her so much? I didn't think I did anything, But then
It's
I'm
the
like,
same thing
okay,
for us though, even within like
Yeah.
we experience a cycle every month, yet every month we forget
And we're caught
why
off
we're
guard.
feeling a certain way. Yeah.
yeah. So certain arguments kind of come up about once a month. It's kind of what it comes
Yeah.
down to.
Mark your
But I guess
calendars.
it adds to the colorfulness of the marriage, and
Yeah.
so
Keeps it,
yeah,
from
Keeps
getting
the
boring.
flame alive.
yeah.
Well, another question for you. You kind of answered this a little bit, but in different seasons of your life, like tough seasons of life, how has your marriage endured through that?
I know that like big changes really throw us. So babies, I remember every time I was pregnant, we would have conversations like, what's this going to look like? Because the newborn stage is very stressful. And I just remember being nervous every time that I knew that it was imminent that I was going to be giving birth because that is a whole nother flood of hormones and emotions
Mhm.
and protectiveness over your baby. And just for me, it came with postpartum depression and anxiety. And so those were really hard times. Also, having kids leave the house has always been a major trigger. I think it was the biggest trigger losing you, Noelle, because you were the
Mhm.
first one. And
Yeah.
so we had no idea how to adjust to that. Had probably one of our biggest fights we've had in all of our marriage.
Over a
The
parking
day we
ticket.
took you to college, and everybody can attest to that because that was a very uncomfortable car ride home. But
I wasn't there, so I can't attest to
yeah,
it. Everybody else
true.
can.
But we can laugh about it now because it was obviously the stress of like knowing that we're entering this new dimension of
Yeah.
like having somebody outside the nest,
Mhm.
and that is a big deal. So
Yeah, changes are hard. I guess going back to the babies, as a dad, I would have this thought of we're going to go to the hospital and we're going to have a baby that I'm not attached to at all yet. And it would feel almost more normal to not bring a baby home from my perspective because I'm not used to having another person around. But when you do, you realize things are going to be way different. And all of mom's attention is going to be on the baby, which means I'm going to have to step up and help both the ones that are home that are littles, and need help with baths and feeding and whatever, all the things that go into that. So I'm going to have to be more available and still work outside the home. So it's like you have this level of stress of like, can I make this adjustment without freaking out too much, and still giving mom grace to get her rest as much as she can. So, I mean, there's anxiety with that because you're not sure how it's all going to look. And then you go through those years, but the more you do it, each time you're like, oh, we've done this 2, 3, 4 times now. It's probably going to be similar to the last time. It's still going to be different and challenging, but we've succeeded so far doing it. And so 6 months down the road, that little baby that's an infant's going to be sitting up in a chair eating, ice cream off my lap or whatever. So it's a short period of time compared to everything you've been through already up to that point. So you just, okay, we can get through this. One success builds on the next success.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have something really big that happens, in your life, you can maybe be a little bit more forgiving to each other. It's like, okay, this too will pass, even if it's rough at the moment.
Yeah. It's just a season that you're going through.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I've even felt like that with our kids, like going through postpartum twice. It's like, I mean, both of them were really hard, but now that we've kind of rebounded from both of them, it's like there's another side to this. It's not just like, because in the moment you feel like it's like all enveloping and like you feel like that's all that there is. And like I would have thoughts of like, oh my gosh, is this like my whole life? Like, did I just like, honestly, I don't want to say like made a mistake, but like, I just had feelings when I had colicky babies of like, oh my gosh, is my life going to just be like this forever? Even though like I knew they were going to grow up, it just felt like it would never end.
Yeah.
And
when you're
yeah,
exhausted.
yeah. Yeah.
Just
And
your
so I
limit.
think like on the other side of that too, even though I'm scared that that's going to happen again if we have a third baby, but I still have like, we have like a perspective shift because we've been through it once and twice. So I can
Yeah.
imagine every time you have a baby, it's kind of a little bit easier.
Yep. I would agree. That's exactly how I felt too. It's like, well, we've been through this a few times and we've done great and everybody's loving this new person coming into our family, and it actually adds more excitement. There's a new personality now that we get to learn. Who is this person?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I have a question that kind of like builds off of that because I think I'm currently in that stage of like accepting my new identity as mom and separate from who I was before I was a mom. And like, do you feel like every time, like, Noelle, you can speak to this too, but like every time that you welcomed a new baby into your family, do you feel like you were assuming a whole new identity, or do you feel like it became easier like each time?
Are you asking me or mom and dad?
Oh, I thought you were asking Noelle.
Both. No, both of you. I mean, mom and dad have done it more than
Yeah, that's
just
why
the
I was waiting
once,
for their response.
more than twice. So, I mean, Noelle, you can speak to it too, but obviously mom and dad are gonna have like more experiences with that to speak on.
I definitely feel like the first couple is where the major shift comes. And then you step into that and you like understand who you are as a mother. I think it takes a while to like get there where you're like, this is who I am. This is me, just a different version of me. And honestly, I feel like with every kid, there was like a purifying that happened in me, and not necessarily always for the best, but like motherhood has a way of like, I don't know a better word other than to just like purify you because you literally are giving your whole self, and I'm sure it's the same. I can't speak as a father. I'm sure that it's the same but different for them. But I think once you take on that identity, obviously there's a shift. There's like I understand what you mean by like losing yourself, because I remember having conversations with my friends when I just had 2 kids of just like, my spirituality is so much different now. Like that was a really big one for me because dad and I like did a lot of things spiritually before we had kids that kind of came to a screeching halt once we had kids, because living out your vocation as a mother is going to look different, like, and what you do with your faith with that than when you were single. So that was a big adjustment, but in every realm. But I would say that like with each child, I mean, now I can't separate my motherhood from my identity. That is just so much of who I am. Yeah, I can't even imagine any other way.
And I would say just a couple thoughts are when we would get ready to go to the hospital to have our next baby, there would be an excitement about meeting this new baby, but there was a special moment that we would have during that day or two in the hospital where it was just your mom and me welcoming this new baby into our family, and sharing that in an intimate way. I would be in the delivery room with the doctor and the nurses and being able to cut the umbilical cord. All those things were really amazing things for a father to do. And they always had a good breakfast. So I was excited about that. But I
Okay,
will
I
say
love
that
how
they always had bacon. It's like so good. And at the same time, I would have this thought of I have 18 years that I need to provide for this person, as a father, and which added to my need to work, and which was a stress. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
kind of keep up with this need, so there's that bit of anxiety that would go through my mind, and that I'd think, okay, well, God will take care of it. I have to trust, even though I had the realization that this is going to be more burden too.
Mhm.
But there's the other side is like when mom was taking care of the new baby, then that made the other little kids depend on their dad, me more, which gave me an opportunity to bond with you guys that were home,
Mhm.
when the next baby would come. So that was special for me too, to be able to
Mhm.
be in that role of caretaker and giving you the baths and putting you to bed and all those things that became our routine, night prayers together, all that stuff that
Making chicken
gave us the stability. What's
turkey.
that?
What is that called? Turkey surprise,
Wild
wild
turkey
turkey.
surprise.
That was
Yes.
only when I would go out of town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was gone for a few days. We would just clean out the leftovers and mix it
Making
together in a way that they would hopefully eat.
Nobody would eat it
I
except
don't
for
know. I
you.
don't know if that happened.
Do you
I
want to know
remember
what our
how
current fight is along those same lines?
what?
What?
Expired ranch that dad doesn't want to get rid of.
It's only a week old. It's fine.
But it's expired, and it not only is it expired, but it has a different color and
It
consistency,
still
Ew,
tastes
okay,
okay.
Oh,
that is when you pitch it if it has a different color.
Yeah. Come on.
right?
What color is
it's
it?
like it's just blue cheese now.
Well, it's almost like Trinity said, "Ooh, why is it that color?" And it's like thinner and it's got like a tinge of like gray.
Ew,
So,
no.
Yeah, let's
do you
not
think
risk salmonella. I don't even know if that's an option, but
yeah, I know,
not risk
whatever
food
the
poisoning for this.
That's terrible.
Listeria, E. coli, whatever the thing is.
Well, if I'm not here tomorrow, you'll know why. So there you go.
I'm sorry.
Let's not
Throw
joke
that away
about
right
that.
now without dad looking.
It's going in the garbage.
Okay, I was gonna say on the same note of what you guys are saying. Yes, Faith, I was in that season probably a year ago, I would say. It has taken me until like just recently where I feel like I've really accepted my identity and embraced it. But I think it takes time to close that gap between like who you were pre-kids versus who you are post-kids and just like mold the two together. Because I haven't been able to like I haven't had a breathing room since having two kids back to back until now where like I can actually have hobbies and like do things that I did before I had kids and like work out and whatever. And I feel like now it's like what mom was saying, I can't imagine it any other way. Like I can't imagine myself before kids. Like I think about myself before kids and I'm like, what did I even do? Like Austin and I talk about that. We're like, what do we even do with our time? Like it just like it becomes like a foreign concept to not be taking care of something 24/7.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I don't know. I think I would say this to any mom, honestly, that's going through that stage because that was really hard. I remember I would think about like my pre-kid self and almost like be emotional about that because I missed who I was and I missed like traveling and hanging out with people all the time and like going and getting drinks with friends at night and like doing things that I would do before kids. But like that morning period, I think is normal and it also ends. Like it's not going to happen the rest of your life because I think when I was mourning my previous self for that whole time, it was like, is this how I'm gonna feel forever? Like I can't go back. You can't reverse after that. So I think if you just keep moving forward, it gets better and it gets like the dust kind of settles. Does that make sense?
Well, and it's always changing because
Yeah.
look, now like Dad and I joke that we have two only children at home. So like
Because they're
it's
5 years
just
apart.
totally
Yeah.
different. Like
Yeah.
motherhood is, constantly evolving and, it probably says something about a woman's ability to like, what's the word? Adapt. Yeah. And I can only speak as a woman. I know that you
I
can adapt
cannot. I
too.
can't speak as a woman. Sorry.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. So I'm not going to speak for you. I'm not trying to say that my struggles are worse than yours. They're just different. So, and I do remember now that I say that we used to have fights about stuff like that. Like who's working harder, who has the tougher job. Like,
Mhm.
I think that that is a reality too. Like, who is, doing more around the house or who's not pulling their weight or, when you're both
Mhm.
exhausted and like, whether it's staying up in the middle of the night with the kids or, having a very physical job like what dad had, we both were doing very hard things. And sometimes we got caught up in that comparison
Mhm.
thing, which is never good, like at all. There's
Well,
nothing good that can come from that.
and I think the thing that I've learned about that too is that, like, you only see what you're doing every day. You never see
Mhm.
the other person, what they're doing every day. Like, I
Right.
never know
Mhm.
what Austin actually does at work. Like, honestly, I have a concept, but I, like, don't know the nitty-gritty of the details of the stress he experiences and the conversations he has and, like, all of the little things he does to, like, provide for our family in that way. But at the same
Mhm.
time, he has no idea the little things I do at home to, like, make sure everything runs as it should be, you know? And I think it's just, like, it's hard because you do get in that mode of just, like, only my situation is, like, hard, but then if you actually think about it, you're like, "Oh, wait, I don't actually know all the things that he does," and I'm sure it is really stressful, you know? We've had the similar arguments about that.
Well, I think it's easy to in the moment. I remember having those thoughts, like out in the tractor. It's like, wonder if whoever appreciates all that I'm putting into this to make this work, or mom might have the same thought. I wonder if he appreciates that I'm doing his clothes every day and I
Mhm.
don't get thanked, for it, that kind of thing.
No,
But
not about the clothes. I never.
or whatever the thing is. But then also, in your morning offering that you pray in the morning, you say, "May all my works, joys, sufferings of this day unite them with our Blessed Mother, give to our Lord." Just that whole prayer of umbrella, offering everything we do to God, that God sees it. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Is like it's being recognized. You want your spouse to see it, and sometimes they do, sometimes maybe they don't. But I do think that God sees it and he blesses that, in your relationship.
Yeah, I think there was just a lot of years that both of us were surviving, sort of. I mean, that doesn't glamorize parenthood or marriage or anything, but that was our reality. So,
But it's still, it makes you closer together, I think, too, because
mhm,
you are just giving your all in the best capacity that you can. And sometimes, you have meltdowns, but in the end, you still know that everybody's trying
Mhm.
and giving forgiveness, for wherever
mhm,
we fall short. But it's also making you more bonded as a family,
yeah,
spouses and kids and everybody together, because we're all working together. The kids are helping each other, parents are helping their kids are helping their parents. I mean, it's just everybody's working as a team. Sometimes better than others, but in the end, we're all in it together.
mhm,
Our own village, if you will.
That's what they wanted. They wanted their own village.
Yeah,
yeah, we got it.
What
and
would
it's
you
real.
what?
I said it's real.
And it's
And
for
Dad, do you wanna
every
tell him
sacrifice.
what the stats would be if we each had 8 kids for 8, 10 generations?
Sure. If every generation had 8 children, and they all had 8 children, and they did that for the next 10 generations, that would turn into about 1 billion people. So
Which
there
is
you have it.
is that the whole how many people are in the world?
But you might have to go 11 generations to get to the world population, which I think is around what, 8 or 9,
That's
6 or 7,
crazy.
whatever.
And he's not saying we should each have 8 kids, by the way. He
Oh, no, no, I'm
clarified
just
that.
saying it's a fun mental exercise.
But how
It
many
is.
grandkids would that give us?
1,000,000,000?
64, well, in our
True.
generation.
That's a lot.
Well, you'd have a
My
billion
grandparents
10
almost had
times
that many.
what?
Well, 8 times 8.
That's assuming if every one of our kids had 8 kids,
And I'm
which
not saying you need to do that. I'm just saying it's a fun thing to
I
think
mean,
about.
some of you might have 10. So,
Maybe we'll even it out.
And I
Maybe
didn't
Grace,
I didn't factor in religious
That's
locations
funny.
where you might have some priests and sisters in there,
shoot,
hopefully.
dang, that'll throw things off a little bit.
You might need to have 12 generations.
No, but you need those people because they're gonna be praying for the people who have
Exactly,
8
yeah.
kids.
That's right.
yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Who are those
For
people in our
sure.
family?
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe Grace. No.
Ah,
It'll either be 10
You are the
kids
Lord's
or you can
colony.
be a sister.
You got 2 options.
or you could do both, Grace. You could have 10 kids and then become a sister.
Afterwards?
Yeah, they've done that. Elizabeth Ann Seton.
That'd
Yeah.
be pretty difficult.
Yeah, St. Elizabeth Ann Seton did do that.
She
Wait,
had, what,
what?
5 kids, I think.
How does that work?
She was widowed, and then she became a
I would not wanna
religious
plan for that to
sister.
Can you
happen.
imagine that though? You'd have to like give up your grandchildren
Yeah,
then.
that
Like,
does not sound very fun.
I've never understood
Well, it
that.
depends on your apostolate.
But
You
I
could
guess
you
if you're
could be
called to that.
well, it doesn't. Yeah, you could have your apostolate be serving your grandkids or something. I
She
don't
could
know.
make her own order.
Just have the Holy Father bless it, and there you
Yeah.
go.
That's what St. Elizabeth Ann Seton did, didn't she?
Yeah.
She made her own order and she started a school.
Teaching. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe she taught her grandkids.
Yeah, I bet she probably could have. I wasn't there, so I'm not sure.
Well, I have another question for you. What advice would you give to young couples discerning marriage right now?
I feel like we've done that because we have kids that have discerned.
What?
So I'm trying to think what advice did we give you? Like,
Well, I would say the most expectant, is that the word? I don't know. The advice that we received a lot is to save ourselves from marriage. And that has served us really well in our life, I would say, to save sex for marriage. And another one I would say is that dad always said, well, wait, that might not be marriage advice.
I don't know.
Do you
I
guys have
don't
any?
feel like I don't know that I remember any specific like sayings or
advice?
anything. I think it's just like I think you just led by example and like built up our like moral compass
Yeah.
more than giving like specific advice for marriage.
Yeah.
I
There's
don't
not
like
like any
recall
one
anything
liner.
specific. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe I misspoke. If I was to give somebody advice,
About marriage in general or about for their particular situation?
Well, if we had a particular situation, we don't have one.
Okay. Well, I didn't like if we're talking to you as our children or just like what's a
Just
good idea in general.
just in general.
So I would say you want to be compatible, which in my mind would be do you have the major things in the right order? Your faith, I would say, is like the top. It's like, are we going to be able to get through those tough times because we have Christ as the center of our marriage? And how does that look? And as we've experienced in our family, it's like you want to have the same or similar faith, but like two of our kids have had spouses that weren't Catholic, that they had Christ as the center of their life. And so that was still the core of their marriage, I would say, from my perspective at least.
Mhm.
And so those values were in the right place so that other values could follow suit and they could build. Obviously, you have the basic, chemistry, that kind of stuff, but you have to in the end have somebody that you can really spend your life with and grow in relationship with our Lord together. And if you have that in the right place, all the rest of it's just kind of like I would say follows suit.
I thought you were gonna say bells and whistles because you like to say that sometimes.
I think strength of character and being hardworking, those were things that
Oh,
I
yeah.
think dad really stressed. Like, I feel like he kind of put all the guys to the test and they passed in flying colors. But
Wait,
the
can you tell
hardworking part, I mean, obviously that is very important if you're going to be able to be not necessarily the only provider, but a provider for your family. So,
Yeah, you want to have a spouse. It depends on which, if you're talking female or male here, but like for our daughters, I'd want a male that can provide for my daughter, that can be a leader, provider, spiritual leader, primarily be a good provider, protect,
protect.
make sure
That's
she's safe, make sure she's their number one, that kind of thing. I think is really important. If you're looking from a male's perspective, looking for a wife, you want somebody that's going to be, obviously open to life, and same thing for a male, I guess, either way, open to life and be a spouse that's going to be faithful and not have some major impediments, addictions, things like that. You can't marry somebody fixing something that's fundamentally flawed. So I think you want to make sure that you're discerning properly. And it doesn't mean that that person has to be perfect, but it just means, is this something that I can go into that isn't going to become basically a failed relationship, and to discern that before you enter into that permanent relationship.
Yeah, I feel like that's all served us all very well. And searching for and maintaining relationships is like those qualifications were very even like said without being said. Like I feel like the hardworking thing. I mean, dad did say that a lot of times. Like he would say like you want to find someone who can provide, and that was always in my head too when I was thinking about dating someone. Were the things that you would say to us. But I do think a lot of it was just in the example because we did find men who were a lot like our dad. At least a couple. Well, we have now 3, perhaps 4.
The pressure of marriage and becoming a nun. What to do?
Two extremes.
I just want to say that was totally a joke. Okay,
I
like
know, I'm joking.
no
I don't
pressure
feel
there.
pressure. I don't feel pressure.
I think another thing that we probably learned more from example, but also from conversation with mom and dad growing up, is that marriage is forever,
Mhm.
forever commitment. Because I think that is an underlying thing to what you're saying there, Dad. But I think that what we also saw in kind kind of the way you pursued each other and had disagreements, like, you always reassured us, like, we are going to work through this and we can work through hard things. And I think that showed us and through conversation you shared that like love is a choice. Like you choose to will the good of the other person. Um in your marriage even in harder seasons, and I think that that's something that, like, we didn't necessarily have to test out until later in marriage. However, we looked for, like, the right qualities for someone who is gonna stick it out and be willing to learn and grow with you, because ultimately 5, 10, 15 years down the road, you're not gonna be the same person you married on your wedding day, so you need somebody who's willing to, like, evolve with you
Mhm.
as you mature in your marriage too.
Something that came
Mhm.
to my mind as you were talking is that it's really hard to separate parenthood from marriage because, in my mind, they go together. But one of the things that I think is really important in marriage is like, and something that we decided early on is that we were going to always present a um, front that was united to our kids. So if we did have disagreements, that's why it was in a different room, because we didn't want the kids to like, because I think kids like naturally are going to test that, right? They're going to
Mhm.
say like there's a weakness here and I'm going to like capitalize on that because that's human nature. So it was really important to us to like have that mutual front of like, being on the same page. And there was a lot of conversations behind closed doors about like maybe we didn't weren't both on the same page. Like, and that's where I see a lot of similarities between the Blessed Mother and Jesus in that, not saying that the woman is the Blessed Mother in a marriage, just that Mary is the intercessor, right? So there were times that I felt like maybe dad's perspective might have been a little bit harsh or like too black and white, that I would go to him and I'd be like, could we look at this from this perspective
Mhm.
and like be the softness
Mhm.
there, and also the other way around. Like there was times that he would say to me like this is like maybe I was being too harsh or whatever, but we tried really hard to present to you guys a mutual like understanding,
Yeah.
you know.
And then we were going to back each other up.
Yeah,
So it wasn't like pitting one parent against the other.
right.
That's one thing I remember, and I'm experiencing firsthand now with having toddlers, is that whenever we would ask mom something, if she would say no or yes, we couldn't go to the other parent and like ask them. If she would say no, we couldn't go to dad and ask him. Like, they would be the same yes or the same no. So like I experienced that with my kids now, where like the one of them will come up to me and be like, "Oh, mommy, can I have a fruit snack?" And then I'll say, "No, we just had one earlier." And then they'll go up to the other parent and be like, "Daddy, can we have a fruit snack?" And then it's like, okay, is he gonna say yes or no? Like they try to kind of play that like, well, if we can't get her, maybe we can get him. But if you're on the same page, then it makes it so your discipline is a lot more consistent.
Yeah.
Well, and it's really hard because everybody wants to be the nice parent. Like you want to be the one that can say, yes, of course you can have a fruit snack. And if you don't see the value in them not having the fruit snack, it's that much harder unless you've made the decision ahead of time that we're gonna like be on the same page. So
It makes it a lot easier, like you said, Noelle, in the long run to be
Mhm.
consistent. And sometimes you get it wrong. It's like, well, I didn't know mom said no.
Yeah,
And then they're
exactly.
like, well,
There's always
next
human error.
time it's like, you're going to do it. So then we started saying, ask your mom.
Yeah, I remember.
I say, well,
Say, ask your dad.
and
Yep.
then
Yeah,
we do
and
that
we would
several
never get
times
an
and they give
answer.
up. They're like, oh, shoot. I'm tired of asking.
That's so true.
No, I feel like I
Parenting
see
is hard.
that too, like as a teacher, that consistency is key for kids. And I think having like the same answer to things, the same kind of routine to things actually helps kids feel safe. Like, I think if they were getting mixed signals from different parents, like even though kids don't necessarily interpret it that way, ultimately it does make them feel safe or less secure. And so I
Mhm.
think that that is a really important thing to have in the household, and something that I hope to uphold in our marriage too. But I think that is some really good advice.
What do you mean? You haven't
Speaking
had
from my
Micah ask
experience
you
with,
for a fruit snack yet?
well, I can just speak to the experience of my students who like to try to push boundaries or,
Yeah.
test limits. And that's just a kid's nature. So,
Yeah, it is. And that's human nature. We all
yeah.
do it, I mean,
Well,
so
Bo does it too, I've noticed.
Bo
He
asks for
does.
free
Asking for
stuff.
a
He is a
dog
boundary
snack or
pusher.
yeah.
no, Bo's easy.
He just asks if he can have another pair of underwear to chew on rather than
Yeah,
a fruit
yeah,
snack.
that's true.
Gosh, that is the truth. That is the truth.
Well, I'm out of questions to ask you guys. Anybody else have any questions? If not, we can run into our next segment. Okay.
We covered it all, I guess.
Well, we are going to talk about our next segment, which is drum roll, please. Room for more. Wait, what we're making room for this week. So everybody share what you're making room for, and then after that, we'll do our favorite thing.
Does the order matter? I think we usually do favorite things first.
Sorry, let's start with favorite things. Does anybody have a favorite thing?
I have mine in hand currently. I've been messing with it this entire podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's this little mini Nido. Have you guys had
Trinity
any?
has
What
one of
is
those.
that?
Yeah, well, I know Lorna had one in her purse the other day too, and Sienna kept wanting to get it. And I don't know, they're just like, it's kind of like a fidget, but like I didn't ever feel like I was a fidget person, but I feel like since this is so like discreet and like quiet, I don't know, it doesn't make any noise. I don't even notice that I'm necessarily playing with it, but I don't know, it just like calms me.
I need one of those.
Nice.
I'm such a
Yes, you should get
fidgeter.
one. And it's a little mini one. They make huge ones,
Yeah,
but the mini
Trinity's
one
is
is more
about
handheld.
4x4,
Yeah, it's
and it
huge.
weighs, I bet, 5 pounds. And I think you could chuck it at a window and it'd shatter the window.
It's
How did she
big.
But it's
even
all
use it?
rubbery.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What is it for?
I don't know.
I didn't know she had it until we were
They
down.
remind me of those Chinese finger trap things, the jelly ones that they used to have at the Y arcade. You remember
Those
them?
are, those were creepy. Like
It's
that
like the
actually did
same
trap your fingers and you
consistency.
couldn't get up.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I hate it though. Why did they sell those to kids? Chinese finger trap.
You're talking about this thing you put
The
your
Y
finger in
started
and
Yes.
you
the
pull it?
trend.
You put both your
Oh,
fingers in the
yeah.
ends and they get stuck
Yeah.
and you can't get them out.
Okay, yeah.
All you have to do is push it together to get them out.
My favorite thing, I didn't have one, but as I've thought about Trinity, are her LED lights that she has up in her room. They're really cool. They were like not very expensive. Like they go to the music that she puts on. So
What?
they'll
What?
like, yeah, they'll go to the beat of her music. And I don't
It's like
know.
a
They
light
just,
show.
yeah, they make a really, like, her room is really cozy because of them. So
Mm. Maybe we'll have to get
I
some
never was
for
a
her.
believer in LED light. What, Grace?
We need a tour.
Yeah.
Do you want
It's,
the house
it is
tour?
that cool.
It is cool. We're going to do a disco party down there.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Down
We
there?
should do that on Sienna's confirmation. We can do a family
Family
disco
dance
party
party.
in Trin's room.
Yeah, Noelle, you must have not got the memo that she moved room.
I didn't. I said why is it down there? She moved her
She
room
swapped
downstairs?
rooms with Robbie. So her room is
Oh.
down and his is up.
What was the reasoning of that?
Because she wanted
She wanted
to.
it, and she's an only child. So she gets what she wants.
She's an only child? What about Scene?
Well, she's also
They're
an
both
only
only
child.
children.
I could see
Like
it.
5 years apart.
Well, I would say my favorite thing is we are putting together we're trying to decorate our living room, and yesterday we went to At Home and spent like $200 on picture frames, but we bought like probably like 15 different picture frames, and they're all like different sizes and like textures, and we're going to do like a collage wall, like all the different picture frames, and then put just like different prints in them. And then we also have some on our media center like that we just put up last month. So I'm just really excited for that. And I think the picture frames are my favorite thing this week because we're going to like work on prints and stuff for that. So it feels good to like have the space all coming together.
Hmm. It takes a while.
It does. Yeah.
I see a collage in the mirror on Faith and Grace's camera.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my little photo collage on the wall over there.
Yeah.
I finally
Grace
updated
pictures.
those pictures to include Micah, so
I saw that last time I was there.
Cute.
thanks.
Somebody's not asleep at your house.
Elliot is
What?
like starting his like imaginative stage, and he
No.
literally spent the last hour. This whole time we've been on the call, he's been screaming upstairs.
Hey,
Oh,
Austin.
no.
Yeah, and
He's screaming.
Austin's been trying to get out of there to do our taxes, and now he just finally came down to get the stuff.
Oh, man.
He was
Sorry, bud.
thinking that a monkey was him.
screaming because a monkey was chasing him. in his
Oh.
Poor buddy.
imagination.
Oh, it's in a monster truck. It'll get it.
He actually like is having these like
Aw.
these like he keeps saying things are scary. Like we were at the park today and we went to this little like there was like a little sound thing where if you push the button it would make the sound of the animal. and he pushed it was like they actually did sound really realistic. It was like a wolf, a like all these predators, owl,
No
a
wonder he's
bear,
scared.
and he would press him and he'd be like, "That scares me, mommy." But then he would go right up and try to press it again. Like he just kept wanting to be there by it.
And he's
He'd be
overstimulated.
Yeah, then we were like walk to the other side of the park and he'd be like, "Mommy, that scared me." And then he would go right back to it, like sprint over to it and do it again. So I don't know.
Might have to have him watch some VeggieTales.
Okay,
Maybe
that's
that would help.
VeggieTales scared me actually. The Spanish
Dude.
version, we watched Where's God When I'm Scared
Yeah.
in Spanish, and I literally about flipped a gasket when I was their age. I was like, I imagined that's the closet in our hallway. I imagined that it was like that scary like monster thing
Yeah.
in that movie. And it literally, I remember at Faith's birthday party in particular. I think I was 3 and Faith was 2. It was at Faith's Elmo birthday party. Do you remember that?
I think that was Grace's.
No, it was
Didn't Grace
Faith's.
have the Elmo one?
No, it was Faith's because she had Billy Bob was there and she had like a beach ball on the birthday cake. I remember
I
it
do
so
remember the
vividly.
beach ball on
Yes.
the
Yeah, yeah,
birthday
yeah,
cake.
yeah.
I remember it so vividly because I was like traumatized because I kept trying to get on mom's lap because I was so scared of that hallway. And mom was like trying to focus on Faith because it was her birthday party. And she was like,
Oh,
"Well, what are
shoot.
you doing? Get down." And I was like trying to like climb behind her in the chair.
I can't understand. Yeah, in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I was literally
'Cause
terrified.
that was at dark. That
Yeah,
was
I was scared in the daytime. I was like, I thought that monster was going to come get me out of the closet.
What?
But it's like so real when you're that age. So like,
yeah. it
whatever.
is.
He's going through that right now.
Shoot.
Good luck on the taxes. I love you. We're almost done.
Grace, do you have a favorite thing?
I would say my favorite thing is I wanted to do the thing that Faith did, but yeah, she did that. So I would say the Osei body oil. I don't know if you guys have tried it. I think I brought it home at one point, but yeah, it just smells really yummy and feels really good especially during the winter when my skin gets so dry. I like to put some of that on and then like seal it in with the like thicker lotion. But I love that stuff. Good stuff. The
Good to
Osei body
know.
oil.
What about you, Dad? What's your favorite
What
thing?
am I doing?
What's your favorite thing? Have
Favorite
you
thing of
bought
the week?
something recently that or he doesn't buy stuff?
I don't buy things.
Yeah, but thing you're like reading, watching,
Yeah.
listening to.
I think Dad's favorite thing is this wine.
Yes,
There
I'm
you go.
enjoying my wine.
What kind of
These
wine is it?
glasses actually are really nice.
These are good.
Those are cool.
How come yours is empty?
Because I need it.
The next thing is what we're making room for this week.
I'm making room for my husband.
Oh, thank you.
He's been at the farm for like, was it
5 days.
5 days? Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm just really excited to have him home, and maybe we'll get a day date or something this week.
That'd be
which
great.
is something that we can do now. So
Yay.
And I'm going to
Yeah.
try to make a little more Lenten intentions again since
Yeah,
I've been a little
me
bit
too.
lax on that.
I have
so.
been too. The New York trip threw me, and I just really have never gotten back on. So every day's new.
Dad, that's what you're making room for this week is Lenten.
Yes.
I am making room for sunshine this week. Last week was very gloomy and rainy, which was beautiful and much needed. But this week's supposed to be really nice and sunny. Hoping to get outside a little bit. And with the time change, it's going to stay lighter later. So it'll give me more of an opportunity to actually enjoy it. Yep. Pumped for that.
I am making room for hard decisions. I have had a really hard decision weighing on my heart for the past few months. And this is the week that I get to finally commit. And I'm really looking forward to the piece on the other side of the difficult decision.
This week, I am making room for. I feel like I related to everything you guys are saying in a way and wanted to make room for everything.
This is always your problem, Noelle. You're like such an overachiever. You got to make room for everything.
I know, that's literally my problem in life. Maybe I should make room for doing nothing then in that case.
Yeah, true.
Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll make room this week for nothing. And by nothing, I mean like making space for just more of what I've been doing and less of doing more. That's such a like problem that I feel like not a lot of people have that I always have.
I have the same
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Well, thank you guys for joining us, Mom and Dad. We have been so blessed to have you on our podcast this week, Dad. And we hope you will join us again soon. Maybe even for a solo episode if we get Father Ray on. Or wait, not Father Ray, Dr. Ray. Father Ray. If we had
He's
Dr.
been called father before. So,
Okay. But if we
Is a
had
father to many.
Yeah.
If we had-
father
If we had Dr. Ray Garandi on this podcast, Dad would literally flip.
Yeah, he would.
So if he's listening right now by any stretch, we
Reach
would love
out.
to host you. Okay, we love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. That was today's conversation, and now it's your turn.
Who can you make room for this week?
Who might need an invitation, a listening ear, or a seat at your table?
It doesn't have to be perfect, just open.
We'll be back next time, gathered again with stories, faith, and family. Until then,
Pull up a chair and follow us on Instagram at Room for More Podcast. There is always one more seat at the table.